My name is Jamie Hinson-Rieger. I'm the Senior Minister at First Parish in Bedford, and I am happy to introduce our next guest speaker. I understand first that there's a large contingent from Westford here today. Westford, are you? Thank you for being here, and thank you to all of you for coming out today to stand up for our immigrant neighbors. As Victoria alluded to, what's happening here today is a very, very tiny piece of a very large volunteer effort to fight injustice and to support our immigrant neighbors, and it's happening in all kinds of different ways. Our next speaker is going to talk about one piece of that, which is ways that ordinary people can provide much needed temporary housing to immigrants who need a place to stay for varying lengths of time. So I first met Regina Corrao at a community forum that we had at my church, where we were talking about how households of individuals can begin to organize to provide housing to immigrants. And Regina really took point on that, and within a short amount of time had organized a cluster of households that were doing exactly that. She is on the Immigration Justice team at First Parish in Concord, where she's a leader there. She is on the Immigration Justice core organizing team of UU Mass Action, which is a Unitarian Universalist coalition that fights for immigration justice and other causes. She is one of the heroes working tirelessly on the ground, and I'm very happy to welcome her to speak today.
Thank you, Jamie. I especially loved seeing the number of hands that went up when you were asked, who's here for the first time? Can we do that again? Who's here for the first time? Wow, warms my heart. I love that. I'm going to ask you to take a moment and think about that time when you first realized that the world was not fair and that there were things that needed to be done. And just sit on that for a moment in your mind. And I'm going to tell you my story. And I think my consciousness around inequality and injustice began when I was 10 years old, living on Long Island, New York, and my parents took us for a day trip into New York City. It was a lovely spring day, and we're walking down those streets, and I see people sleeping and obviously living on the sidewalk. Now, my 10-year-old brain was blown. I could not understand how this could be. And in my logic of the time, I thought the answer was very simple. We should take someone home with us and turn the television room into a bedroom. I didn't understand why my parents couldn't get behind that. And I was frustrated that I couldn't do something. And I think that was my first moment. Well, fast forward many years later, I'm living in Boston. I'm involved in immigration advocacy and immigration justice. And I learned in January of 2024, as many of us learned, that there were people in our right to shelter state sleeping on the floor at Logan Airport and at South Station. And this time I thought, I can do something. Well, we call that something Blue Boat Home. Blue Boat Home started at First Parish in Concord, quickly joined up with Jamie and his crew at First Parish in Bedford. And at this point, we have provided short-term hosting for unhoused immigrants since July 2024. Hey, yes. Our mission is to keep off the street the women, children, families, babies, pregnant women, until shelter can be found for them. And one of the things that makes Blue Boat Home unique and the other clusters of housing hosts that exist around the state is once a guest family has been with me for a week or so, they go on to the next host in our Blue Boat cluster and then the next. So we string together several weeks of housing while the state figures out what the shelter capacity can be for that family. Excuse me. In the past 18 months, Blue Boat Home has hosted over 20 families and provided over 200 nights of shelter. I hadn't known that really until I added it all up last night in preparation for today. That's a lot. You may ask, and it's a real question, where do these families come from? There's an organization called IFSE, Anyone familiar with it? IFSI, Immigration Family Services Institute. I'm just going to reference it as IFSI because it's a mouthful. They've been contracted by the governor's office to find non-shelter housing for unhoused immigrants among ordinary people until shelter space becomes available. So it's really good to work with IFSI because we didn't know what we were doing. It was a little unsettling. We had a lot of questions, but there is this infrastructure, there's this nonprofit that is in this business. And so they were partners with us. They are partners with us. As importantly, Blue Boat Home, one by one, started to attract members. People from faith communities, not faith communities, from my town in Concord, from Bedford, Acton, Lexington. And at this point, we have about 20 very active, robust people. Can people be robust? I think we can be, yeah. I'll go with that. So the work that we do, again, providing this short-term housing, is done because some people open up their homes and some people help them open up their homes. And I'm going to talk very briefly and quickly about what it means to be a host and what it means to be a helper. Hosts welcome a family for about a week till they move on to the next host in the cluster. They provide them with a warm welcome, a private bedroom, access to the kitchen, and advice and suggestions when requested. The amount of interaction a host has with their guest family is totally up to the host. Some of our hosts are single, some have families, some are working from home, some are working from outside the home. There's a whole range of capacity for interaction and involvement with the guests. And honestly, there's a whole range of interest in that. The way you host is the way that's right for you. Some hosts are on the floor playing with the children, in the kitchen cooking with the mom. Others say, I'm a resource, I'm gonna go do some work now, let me know if you need anything. Whatever way you host is the right way. Now you may be saying, I don't have the space to host, or that just wouldn't work for me. And I get it. Hosting is not for everyone. And that's why we have helpers. So in our 20-person strong, we have about 10 hosts and about 10 helpers. And the helper's job is to make the host's job easier. And these are things that I think any of us really could do. It's take a immigrant to the grocery store, provide translation, track down a pair of winter boots, take the kids to the playground. So there's a number of tasks that helpers sign on for that help make it easier for the hosts to host. Our guests are juggling a lot of fear and uncertainty. Many are young moms with small, active, uniformly adorable children. Having a time in a home where you're welcomed, supported, able to parent without wondering where you're going to sleep next means a great deal to them. In addition to shelter, Blue Boat Home provides respect, tender loving care, connection. There are challenges at times. Working with vulnerable people whose language you may not speak has its challenges, of course. And that's outweighed, we find, by the relief at being able to do something. That's my 10-year-old self speaking. The satisfaction of seeing a young family safe, and the pleasure of being part of this open-hearted community providing this shelter and this help. I confirmed with IFSI yesterday, remember they provide the placements of the families, if there is still a need, and they were like, yes, please ask your people to help. You're not my people, but we're all each other's people. And now I think with ICE disappearing people who earn income and provide rent for their families, there's going to be an increase in unhoused immigrant families because their housing situation, financial situations get more precarious when that happens. So, I know being a host isn't for everyone. I know being a helper may not be for everyone, but it may be for some of you. If you're interested and you'd like to learn more, IFSI's holding a town meeting on Zoom on Tuesday, December 9th. Can you say it with me? Tuesday, December 9th at 5:30. Right, now we've all got it. If you would like the Zoom link for that meeting, please write to Bearing Witness. You all have, I hope most of you have their emails address, and if not, grab that QR code from one of the Bearing Witness organizers, and you will be sent the Zoom link for that. If you want to talk to me about what it was like starting my cluster, what it's like being part of that cluster a year and a half in, I'm happy to do that too, and I will go over to the information table for a few minutes and we can exchange contact information. I have no doubt that we're all doing a lot, and I do believe that boundaries and self-care are critical if we're going to go the distance. If you haven't found your something, or if you think you have another something in you, advocacy, education of friends, voting, accompaniment, providing financial support, or being a host or a helper would all be wonderful ways to keep your involvement. Thank you so much for listening to me today. I appreciate the time.